Hello and welcome to another episode of the PropSwap podcast. We are your hosts, Ian Epstein.
And Luke Pergande.
And we are also the founders of PropSwap, the first marketplace to buy and sell sports bets. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We've got another great episode for you. As you can tell, we are recording from a different location. Right now, we are in Las Vegas for the G2E Conference, the Global Gaming Expo. It's a huge convention here in Las Vegas that encompasses all parts of the gaming industry, slot machines, table games, but a growing portion of this conference is, of course, sports betting. When we first got into this industry, it was probably less than 10% of the conference, but I would say now it's the predominant portion of this conference still. Sports betting is growing by leaps and bounds, and it's something that's been present in other parts of the world for decades, and so other companies from across the world come here to present their products. And then, of course, there are lots of new American gaming companies that are getting involved in sports betting. So, Luke, I mean, what has been your takeaway over the years as we've seen that this conference evolve?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say the money and employees that have now entered the space, lots more entrepreneurs have joined the sports betting ecosystem. And, I think when we were first going to this conference, pre-PASPA, so pre-2018, it was a very small niche of guys and gals who work in the sports betting industry that has grown exponentially. I mean, we're talking it went from, say 40 people in 2017 that were in sports betting, and now it's, thousands. I mean, it's just completely blown up in terms of all the different folks who are specifically working in sports betting, nothing to do with table games, nothing to do with slots, just specifically sports betting. So it's great. So, the more money and more attention that gets put on this industry, the better for the current incumbents and the people who have been working on stuff like PropSwap for years. So I love it. It's nothing but positive, and this is clearly the number one gaming conference of the year for all things sports betting, and obviously perfect city to do it in.
Yeah. Even with the rise of video conferences, people being able to see each other face to face over the internet, there's still kind of nothing that replaces meeting face to face and getting that time in with people who live all over the country or world, and it's just a great place to kind of connect with old friends, new contacts, and get to see each other face to face, and it's kind of invaluable in terms of the amount of people you can connect with in 3 days here. So definitely looking forward to this conference getting started. I'm sure it'll be a fun, productive time. Everyone loosens up a little bit when they're in Las Vegas, so it'll be a fun time. And PropSwap was in the news recently as well. If you don't follow us on Twitter or check our website, we announced our first partnership in terms of mobile integrations with sportsbooks. PropSwap partnered with a company called SB22, which is being headed up by some former employees of IGT, which is one of the biggest players in the sports betting and gaming space. And so a couple of their key employees left to start their own company, which is going to be a platform provider. So essentially, you may or may not know this, but a lot of the sportsbook apps you use are actually being built by a third-party company. Building your own sportsbook is extremely time-consuming, a lot of regulatory hurdles, and so if you're a smaller sportsbook, you just do not have the time or the money to put in to building your own book. So you would use a third-party platform provider. And that's what they're doing at SB22, taking a ton of their experience and being more nimble and agile, which, as Luke and I hear from people in the industry, it's difficult to find companies that can really innovate and move at the speed that the sportsbooks want to. And this company, SB22, is definitely going to be kind of leading the charge on being, innovating and being able to roll out new features fast. So we are extremely excited to partner with them. And it's not been announced yet who their big sportsbook partners will be, but everyone they're talking to is extremely excited to have PropSwap integrated into their product. And it's something that we obviously have been hearing for years in terms of addressing the mobile betting market. And so it's something that we're extremely excited to finally be entering into. Luke, what's been the feedback you've heard since this deal announcement?
Yeah, it's chicken or the egg in startup land. I think if we would have had a deal like this when the stock market was, roaring 2 years ago, when we did our largest raise yet, we could have raised 10 times the amount of money with this deal in hand. And now fast forward to today, the financial markets are performing poorly, and there's recession talk that's possibly ahead. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, said that he could see the stock market bottoming out another 20% today. He said that. So, there's some pretty influential people who are calling for a recession over the next 12 months. So scary for investors. And, my point is that now when we have this deal, the stock market is performing badly, so it's a little more difficult to raise money. But, this is what every investor has been asking for. How do you get from the paper ticket business into the mobile business? Because that's, 9x the market size. In a state like New Jersey, it's 90% mobile, 10% paper. So, how do we attack that other 90%? And this is a giant leap in that direction. So super exciting. It's a box we've been trying to check for a while, and I think the economics are the same. Like, you want to sell your sports bet for a gain or a loss, and you don't want to sell it back to the casino. And obviously with paper tickets, very, very few sports books that I've heard of even buying back paper tickets. So your only option was to sell it to someone else like PropSwap. But with mobile, there's cash out. So we've talked at length of how cash out is like selling your sports bet. This cash out is like selling your car to CarMax. While selling your bet on PropSwap is like selling your car on eBay Autos or Craigslist, or selling it privately. 99% of the time, you're going to get more money by selling it to a private individual. So that's the service we provide. We think sportsbooks have found that interesting, and that consumers want it, most importantly. So very exciting. It's been a long time coming, and there'll be many more of these coming soon.
Yeah, 100%. This will be first of many, and as we always say, there's a place in the market for both cash out and for selling. You obviously pay a premium as a bettor when you choose the cash out option. You pay a premium for that immediacy, but there are definitely some cases where you don't want to risk trying to sell your ticket for more money than the cash out's being offered, and all of a sudden the team starts tanking, and you would have loved to have taken that cash out offer. So there's obviously a place for cash out, but at the same time, if you time and time again, if you compare the numbers what the books are offering on cash out versus what you can sell it on PropSwap, it's not even close. So it's definitely it's a product that the consumers want. It's a product that I think the sports books are finally coming around to agreeing that there is a place in the market for this. I mean, this is something that Luke and I have literally been pounding the pavement on for 7 years, and I feel like we're finally starting to turn a corner. So that's super proud to see our hard work and time being put into that, and people starting to finally come around to our side. So yeah, like you said, first of many, and we're extremely excited to be working with the SB22 team. So definitely more to come on that page. This is the only the beginning in terms of PropSwap entering the digital bet space. So in the sports world, yeah, enough about our business. In the sports world, I mean, October has to be one of the best months in terms of sports betting. We'll get to the baseball playoffs in a second, but the NHL regular season also kicks off this week. The NHL is more Luke's department as a former hockey player himself. What are some of the storylines that you're going to be looking at heading into this NHL season?
Yeah, I think the clear objective for anyone not named the Colorado Avalanche will be how do we combine enough firepower to keep up with the speed and goal scoring ability with the Avalanche, and that is evident in the Stanley Cup odds. You have the Avalanche at plus 450, and then every other team is 10-1 odds or greater. So at the top of the odd sheet, Avalanche plus 450, Hurricanes 10-1, Maple Leafs 10-1, Panthers 11-1, Lightning 12-1. So, obviously the Lightning have the best offense next to the Avalanche, so they're probably best positioned if it goes, if they met in the Stanley Cup to be able to score as many goals as the Avalanche did. And, of course, their super young defenseman, Cale Makar, had an incredible postseason winning MVP in the Stanley Cup. And, he's super talented kid. And, of course, McKinnon, their forward, is a freak as well on the Avalanche. So it will just become who has enough firepower to compete with the Avalanche, and the Lightning are probably best positioned of those teams I just rattled off. Penguins, it just seems like those guys are a little bit too old, but they're still the seventh lowest odds, seventh best team. The Pittsburgh Penguins are at 17-1, so perhaps they can have a resurgence. But and we'll talk about this during the Staker Swap segment, but the Golden Knights, I mean, the 2 seasons ago, not last season, bounced the Colorado Avalanche quite quickly in the playoffs. So, not too big of a difference of roster. I don't think Cale Makar was on that Avalanche team. So, clearly he's a difference maker. So, it will be an interesting hockey season for sure. And then, longer shot teams, Boston Bruins at 28-1. I kind of like them as well. But again, we can talk more about that during the Staker Swap segment. But, Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, both 2 of the best players in the league, both on the Boston Bruins. So to get, 2 of those guys at around 30-1 odds is also an interesting pick.
And so correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the last couple of years have been rare in the sense that the team that was favored throughout the entire season ended up winning the Stanley Cup. Obviously the couple years ago we saw the Blues come out of nowhere, the worst team in the league in January, to then win the Stanley Cup against the Bruins. But last year the Avs were pretty much the favorite the entire season, and the year before that it was the Lightning, pretty much the favorite for the entire season. So, would you say that, is that a trend you think is going to continue this year, or can we kind of expect to go back to, I mean, it used to be just crazy upsets in the playoffs, and home ice really didn't mean that much. And you could expect, a team coming from nowhere. I mean, there was in the bubble season, there was the Canadiens were down 3-1 in the first round and then ended up going to the Stanley Cup. I forget if they lost in the semis or they went to the Stanley Cup. But do you see that trend continuing of the top favorites dominating all season, or can we expect some more upsets?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I honestly think it's not fair to say, if you have a team that's that elite, so I'll give you an example. Like the Golden State Warriors, 4 years ago with Durant were 2-1 basically from the beginning of the season, and it's just all about which team is that loaded with talent. And I think this year, honestly, to answer your question directly, I think it may happen again. This Avalanche team is just loaded. McKinnon, Cale Makar, Landeskog, the captain, it's just they're really, really good. Taves, I don't know if that's Jonathan Taves' brother, by the way, of the Blackhawks, but Taves had a really good season last year, and they're just a really good hockey team. So it's gonna be difficult to dethrone them. You're gonna hope for some injuries from one of those top guys that I just rattled off of if you want to compete with them. But just really, really solid hockey team, and they'll hang 6 to 7 goals on you if you blink.
So maybe some interesting bets other than to win the Stanley Cup. You could look at to win the Eastern Conference, right, which is going to be more wide open. You can look at to win divisions, right? So, for example, the Golden Knights are in a different division than the Avs. That the Pacific Division could be kind of completely up for grabs between the Flames, Oilers, Knights, Kings. So maybe people out there can to try and stay away from the powerhouse that is the Avs. Look at Eastern Conference bets and division bets maybe to try and stay away from that. But again, as we've seen time and time again, if you can find teams that are undervalued for the Stanley Cup odds, and we can get into some of that with the baseball too, because you can make more money by getting in on good futures odds and having them win one series versus actually betting the series, and you can make more money by finding the good futures odds and selling on PropSwap. So hockey's a great sport for us. Really looking forward to it, and we will be following along as the season progresses. But let's jump to a sport that actually is in the playoffs now, and that's the baseball playoffs. And we just got done with the wild card round, which was extremely exciting. The first time ever we've had 12 teams in the playoffs, and it was formatted with the top 2 teams in each league getting a bye, and then the division winner of the other division combined with 3 wild card teams played in the wild card round, and there were some considerable upsets. Mariners upsetting the Blue Jays in Toronto, the Phillies upsetting the Cardinals in St. Louis, the Padres upsetting the Mets in New York, and then the Guardians and in their series. I think they might have been a small favorite, so not an upset there, but extremely exciting, and I think it's going to lead to some exciting divisional series, because now that these teams who have just won a best out of 2, best of 3 series are going to kind of come in here with some momentum. Now that being said, the 4 teams that got buys are huge favorites entering this round. Astros, Yankees, Dodgers, Braves are all at least minus 200 or greater favorites. But me personally, I would be very shocked if all 4 of those favorites advanced. I think there's at least one upset brewing, and we'll get to that when we get to Stake or Swap, who I think my upset pick is. Luke, how would you say that bettors out there can take advantage of in these playoffs when betting and using PropSwap?
Yeah, it's the Guardians were above 100 to 1 this season. You have the Phillies, and we sold tickets on the Phillies at 80 to 1 around that midpoint. In June, when they of course fired their manager Joe Girardi. The Padres, such a cool story. They trade for Juan Soto in that was probably late June, and the odds go down to single digits, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, this team is loaded. you already have Tatis, you already have Machado, pretty solid starting pitching. Like, adding Juan Soto to the mix is just going to make this team a powerhouse. And then Tatis gets suspended for the rest of the year. About 6 to 8 weeks after that Juan Soto acquisition. So just amazing story for the Padres. And, they're just such an up and down, such a yo-yo season for them. And then to go into New York and upset the New York Mets, who, basically, I mean, they had the Mets had World Series aspirations the entire year and just choked in that last final series versus the Braves and lost the division to the Atlanta Braves. So just, super cool story for the Padres. And like I said, we've been selling tickets on the Padres at 40 to 1, Phillies at 80 and Guardians at 100. And you have all of them at almost single digits now, 11 to 1 Phillies, 11 to 1 Padres, and then 16 to 1 Guardians. And if you time that right, you could have made 8 to 10x your money on an MLB future by buying any of those teams. And, now you have an opportunity to sell it for a profit immediately. Or if you have multiple tickets, which we obviously always encourage, you could sell one for a huge profit, and then you have the other ticket for some additional upside and, get ramped up about this next divisional series.
Yeah, so a couple things. One, I mean, we could do a whole podcast episode on the Mets collapse and just use that as a poster child example as to why there's nothing ever guaranteed and why you should always be looking to sell your bet even when it looks like it's a guaranteed winner. The Mets were minus 1,400 odds to win the division in August with a 10.5 game lead and lost it. And so, once again, it's maybe counterintuitive, but this is just another example of how nothing is guaranteed in sports. And if you had a Mets to win the NL East ticket, you could have been selling it for 92% of its value of its collect amount, and maybe some people would say, I'm leaving money on the table because this is obviously a guaranteed winner, but clearly it wasn't. And when I posted a photo of that 90K Braves to win the NL East ticket with the Bengals to win the AFC North, and people in the comments were saying, this ticket's a loser. There's no way the Mets are blowing this lead. And I responded to one person. I was like, crazier things have happened. And sure enough, the Braves, the defending World Series champions, came back. So that's just a poster child example for why you should be trying to sell your bets even when it looks extremely probable to happen. You never went broke taking a profit. Minus 1,400 odds you could have sold it at and ends up losing. And then I was just going to bring up another example. This can be found on the PropSwap Twitter page. But prior to Game 1 of the Phillies-Cardinals wildcard series, a PropSwap customer purchased a ticket on the Phillies to win the World Series, collect amount of $8,700, and he purchased it for $230, so odds of 37 to 1. The Phillies go on to win that Game 1, and the odds drop down to 15 to 1. And then that ticket that the person purchased it for $230 was now worth $550 after just one game. And to flip a ticket from $230 to $550 would be better odds than if you would just bet the Phillies to win that game, money line. So I just wanted to bring that up as an example of how you can play these futures odds and get in, get out, flip it after one or two games, and the payoff will be better than just by betting the money lines on the games, because especially when there's upsets, then the odds change so drastically because they're like, oh wait, we probably really the books are like we undervalued the Phillies, and they just won Game 1, and there's tons of opportunities to take advantage. So I just wanted to throw that example in there as you approach betting this MLB postseason. So now I think it's finally time for this week's edition of Stake or Swap. First up, we will jump back to the NHL we'll be talking about the Vegas Golden Knights at 19-1 to win the Stanley Cup. Luke, you're up first. Are you staking or swapping the Golden Knights?
Yeah, I am going to stake the Golden Knights at 19-1 odds. I think, as we discussed a little bit earlier, I trust this team's offensive firepower to potentially contend with the Avalanche. And that's the name of the game right now, is just how do you score as many goals as that Avalanche team. So the goalie situation in Las Vegas is a grim one. Robin Lehner, who was the goalie heading into this season, is injured and will not be playing for seemingly the entire season. So it's certainly an issue there. That's probably the best argument against this team, but I trust their offensive firepower. I love Mark Stone. He's one of the best players in the league. They got I think his name's Nicholas Hague today. They got a big defenseman, and then just solid wingers. Their defense has improved from that Stanley Cup run 5 years ago now. And I just think that if there's anyone that's got a chance to knock off the Avs in the West because of their speed and quickness and goal scoring ability, it's the Golden Knights. So a little bit leery about the lack of goalie, but at 20-1 on my money, nearly 20-1 on my money, I will stake the VGK hockey team.
So as much as it pains me to say, I am going to swap the Golden Knights, as someone who was a season ticket holder for many years, I want to see them do well. But you touched on it. The goalie situation is such a question mark, and you can have a ton of offensive firepower, but if your goalie is extremely inexperienced, and they don't really have a great. Logan Thompson was the backup last year, and if he doesn't fit the bill, they really do not have a great option to go below him. And so when you look at all the previous Stanley Cup contenders, you looked at when the Golden Knights were doing well, they had a great Hall of Fame goalie in Marc-Andre Fleury, and Robin Lehner was also could show signs of greatness. And so I'd be open to being surprised by what Logan Thompson can do, but I just do not have the faith that he can bring a team to the Stanley Cup. And then in terms of the other pieces, they've just kind of dropped off. I mean, it's just been a downward trend. It feels like for this team over the past couple of years after starting out so great. But honestly, I think the other big question mark is how this new coach is going to do. So they got rid of the previous coach who came over from San Jose. Their power play last year was absolutely atrocious, and it was one of the most frustrating things to watch. And so in comes Bruce Cassidy, who just came from the Bruins, where they had a great power play. But again, I think that was just years of experience with guys on that line, and that's really what it comes down to with power play is experience with each other. So I will be one of the things I'll be looking for early in the season is how that Golden Knights power play looks under the new coach, because the last couple years it was extremely difficult to watch. So I hope I'm wrong, but unless the goalie situation gets magically figured out, and this coach is light years ahead of the previous coach, I'm going to swap the Golden Knights. And then the next team we're going to talk about, go back to baseball. We will talk about the Cleveland Guardians to win the World Series, who are currently 19-1 as well to win the World Series. I am going to stake the Guardians. As I mentioned, right now the four teams that had the buys are huge favorites, but I do think that at least one of them is primed for an upset, and I'm looking squarely at the Guardians-Yankees series as the potential upset. I've been on this Guardian team for quite some time now, even though the AL Central was one of the worst divisions. This team has a recipe for winning in the postseason. They've got the hit for contact. You've got speed on the base paths. They've got great defense and a great bullpen. And there's honestly shades of the 2015 Royals that won the World Series. I think there's a lot of similarities with that team and this team. And so the trajectory of the Guardians has been tremendous. They were 120-1 in August. They were 30-1 entering the playoffs, and now they're 19-1 to win the World Series. And I still think they're being undervalued, especially when you look at the other teams like Phillies or Mariners. They all have better odds than the Guardians, and I don't get why the Guardians are currently the biggest long shot. They're playing the Yankees, and the Yankees have not done anything to prove to me that they've got the pedigree to win in October. I just don't see how, the Astros, I believe, and the Dodgers, the Braves, all three of those teams have a pedigree and experience of winning in October. And the Yankees, there's nothing about that team that says, oh yeah, like they've been here before and they're locked in. The Guardians are led by Terry Francona, who's got a ton of playoff baseball experience. They can win. They won 15 innings the other day, so they've got the bullpen to outlast some really good hitting teams, and so 19-1, sign me up. I'm staking the Guardians.
Yeah, I mean, look, from a PropSwap perspective, they've been really, really fun to watch. So we love long shots, of course. But I am going to swap the Cleveland Guardians. I think they've had their run. To your point, not a great division. The White Sox were supposed to just dominate the AL Central this year, and we all know how that ended. They did not even come close to doing that. My biggest concern with the Guardians is the Yankees' home record. They had the best home record in baseball this year. And then, obviously, their pitching is great. Although, I will say Garrett Cole, who's going for Game 1 for the Yankees, did lose his opening start last year in Fenway. So, definitely is penetrable in the postseason, is Garrett Cole. But just the home record is too concerning for me. The Yankees just dominating at home. And then, obviously the Aaron Judge story has been, a blast to follow. He just came out of nowhere, quote unquote. Nobody thought he would be contending to hit that many home runs. So I think there's some magic going on in New York. And I realized they had a softer second half of the season than first half of the season. They didn't finish as strong as people thought they would. But, really difficult division when the Yankees had to play with. The Red Sox fell off for sure, but there was a point when every team in the AL East was above 500. I mean, it was a really strong division. So I will be swapping the Cleveland Guardians because of the Yankees' home record and Aaron Judge's magic.
Those are all fair points. And I'm just going to throw out a couple stats that I wrote down that I forgot to mention earlier, just because I spent the time looking this up. Guardians, number 1 in strikeout percentage, meaning they strike out the least in the league, and then their pitching is top 5 in ERA, WHIP, and the least. And when it comes to walks per 9 innings, they rank top 5 in all those categories. So just going to throw that in there. So, but by the time we record this podcast next week, we will have answers to a lot of these questions. The baseball playoffs come fast, man, because they will play back. They will play back-to-backs, and you'll have a night game followed by a day game. So definitely something to always stay on top of, and get those tickets listed as soon as you can after the first game. Get them sold before the second game, I'm always excited for when I can, pull the 2 TVs out and be watching multiple games at the same time during the week. So, best time of the year, October. We got football, MLB playoffs, hockey starting, NBA is starting soon. So, it's definitely one of the best times of the year for us at PropSwap. So, thank you so much for joining us this week. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Please make sure to subscribe, leave a rating, and we will talk to you next week.